I've seen a lot of things in my life, but nothing was more terrifying than looking into the mirror one morning and realizing the man looking back at me was a stranger. He had my face, my eyes, but I couldn't remember his last 5 years. He'd lived them in a blur, rushing so fast he'd become a ghost in his own life. I nearly missed my own life. Not in the dramatic, headline-making sense. I'm still here, alive and well, but for years I was living so fast, so distracted, that entire seasons passed without me truly experiencing them. I used to think of time like a river, and I was in a race with it. The faster I paddled, the more I'd accomplish. I'd be looking ahead, always to the next bend, the next rapid. The finish line I was convinced was waiting for me. I was so focused on winning that race, on getting ahead, that I never once looked down at the water. I never saw the beautiful pebbles on the riverbed, the darting fish, the way the sunlight made the ripples dance, and I never felt the current itself, the quiet, steady pull of it. That morning, staring into my mug, I had the awful thought, what if the rest of my life goes by like this? What if I look up one day at 70 and realize I ran right past the good stuff? The thought wasn't a whisper, it was a shout, a final, desperate alarm bell going off in a life that was about to run on empty. That was the day I began to relearn how to live. I wish I could tell you it was easy. It wasn't some lightning bolt epiphany that changed everything overnight. It was more like chipping away at a block of granite. It was awkward and uncomfortable and a little bit embarrassing at first. I was a man so used to a furious pace that doing nothing felt like a betrayal of my very nature. I had to fight the urge to check my phone, to fill every silence with noise, to stay busy for the sake of being busy. I had to learn a whole new way of being, a new rhythm, and it felt clunky and foreign. But then, something shifted. I started to feel things. Really feel them. The warmth of the sun on my skin. The sharp, earthy smell of the soil after a long winter. The taste of a cup of coffee that wasn't just a jolt of caffeine, but a moment to savor. And once I started tasting life at human speed, I realized just how much I had been missing. It was like I'd been eating cardboard for years. And then someone handed me a meal cooked with love, with every flavor and texture alive on my tongue. My whole life had been about, someday I'll have more money. Someday I'll have more time. Someday the to-do list will finally be empty and I can relax. I built my entire happiness on a foundation of someday. And that's a house of cards. A good wind will come along and knock the whole thing down. For me, that wind was a health scare. It happened late one night. I had just gotten home from a long trip, and a deep, sharp pain settled in my chest. It felt like an elephant was sitting on me. It was all the classic symptoms, the stuff you see in movies. I remember the look on my wife's face as we drove to the hospital, pure terror. All the bravado and the frantic energy I had lived by just evaporated. It was just me, the pain, and the chilling thought that this might be it. Lying on that hospital bed, hooked up to monitors, waiting for the doctor to come back with test results. A strange calm washed over me. All the things that had seemed so important just hours before, the spreadsheets, the deadlines, the unread emails, they meant absolutely nothing. I thought about all the things I hadn't done yet. The camping trip with my son I'd put off for 2 years. The conversations with my wife that had been reduced to a tired shrug at the end of the day. The simple visits to my parents that I'd been too busy to make. The shame I felt was worse than the pain in my chest. I had ignored my own life in the name of productivity. A word that had become a false god to me. I was a prisoner to a self-made prison of my own making. And the bars were made of deadlines and ambition. It turned out to be stress. Not a heart attack, but it was a heart attack for my soul. It shook me to my core. The very first thing I did when I got home from the hospital wasn't check my email. It was to sit outside on the porch with a cup of coffee. No phone, no laptop, just me, the sky turning a soft pink, and the morning birds starting their chorus. My brain rebelled at first. It buzzed with anxiety, trying to think of what I should be doing. It was a habit so ingrained it felt like a physical craving. But I just sat there. I watched as the light shifted from a deep violet to a soft gold. I noticed the cool air on my face, the way the steam from my coffee swirled in the quiet morning air. I felt time slow down. Just a little. That buzzing in my head started to quiet down. And for the first time in I don't know how long, I heard my own thoughts. Not my anxious thoughts, but my real thoughts. The ones I'd buried under all the noise. That morning ritual became my anchor. Every single day, I sit on that porch. Sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes for an hour. It's a daily recalibration. A way of planting my feet on the ground before the world tries to sweep me up in its current. It's a promise to myself that my day is not just a series of tasks, but my actual life, unfolding one sunrise at a time. It's a moment to remember that I'm more than what I do. I am a man who sits on a porch and watches the world wake up. And so, I started taking slow walks. Not for exercise, not to get anywhere, just to walk. I'd leave the house without headphones, which felt completely unnatural. At first, my mind was frantic. It would race, trying to solve problems or plan conversations. But after a while, something shifted. I started noticing things. The neighbor's cat perched on the fence. A king surveying his domain. The sharp, nostalgic smell of freshly cut grass. The way the wind moved through the trees, making their leaves whisper a secret language. The old cracks in the sidewalk, filled in with emerald moss. Those walks became my way of re-entering the world. Of becoming a participant instead of a spectator. I had been rushing through life for so long that I'd forgotten what it looked like. I had been a tourist in my own hometown. But these slow walks turned me back into a resident. And here's the funny thing. When you slow down, time seems to expand. Neuroscientists say this is because novelty makes the brain pay attention. And paying attention stretches your sense of time. I didn't need science to tell me it worked. Suddenly, my days felt longer. I remembered more. I felt more alive, more connected to the world around me. It was like I had been watching a fast-forwarded movie of my own life. And finally hit the play button. But this wasn't just about pleasant moments and mindfulness exercises. Slowing down forced me to face things I had been avoiding for years. It forced me to sit with my regrets, with the guilt of missed birthdays and skipped family dinners. I had to admit that I had been absent. Even when I was in the room, I was there in body. But my mind was 1,000 miles away, on a conference call or a project deadline. That wasn't easy. It was painful. When you stop running, the things you've been running from finally catch up to you. And that's how you begin to heal. You have to stop long enough to feel the pain, to acknowledge the hurt you've caused yourself and others, before you can start to mend. I had to apologize to my wife and my children. I had to say, I'm sorry I wasn't here. I was here, but I wasn't, and that was the hardest thing I've ever had to say. One of the most powerful lessons I learned was that every time I say yes to something, I am saying no to something else. When I said yes to another late-night email session, I was saying no to a conversation with my wife. When I said yes to mindlessly scrolling on my phone for an hour, I was saying no to sleep, to reading, to rest. Time is like money. You can only spend it once. Once it's gone forever. And once I started to see it that way, I started spending it differently. I started asking myself, is this truly worth it? Is this moment, this task, more important than being present with the people I love? Most of the time, the answer was a resounding no. Of course, I still mess up. I still get caught in the whirlwind sometimes. The old habits are like ghosts that linger. But now I notice it sooner. And I have tools to bring myself back. I put my phone in another room during dinner. I block off whole days on my calendar just for being with my family. Doing absolutely nothing productive. I let myself take naps, read books slowly, sit on the porch just to watch the world turn. I've learned that a day spent with the people you love is one of the most productive days you can have. Slowing down hasn't made me less ambitious. In fact, it's made me better at everything I do. Because I actually have the energy to care. It's given me a clarity of purpose that I never had before. I don't just work hard, I work with intention. But more importantly, it's made me present, really present, for the people I love. I see them, hear them, remember them. I remember the way my wife's eyes crinkle when she laughs. The way my son's voice gets deep when he's talking about something he's passionate about. The way my daughter still needs a hug even though she's all grown up. These are the things that will fill the pages of my life. The things that will last. And someday, when my chair is empty, I hope that's what they'll remember about me. Not what I accomplished, or how busy I was, but that I was there. I was truly, completely there. So here's what I want to leave you with. My friend, your life is happening right now. Not later, not after the next promotion, not when the kids are grown, not when you finally retire. Right now is all you've got. And it's enough, if you'll slow down long enough to notice it. Don't wait until a health scare, or a tragedy, or an empty nest to wake up to the fact that time is the most precious thing you own. Step off the treadmill for a while. Take a walk, watch the sunrise, listen to the people you love when they talk. Let life catch up to you. You might just find it's been trying to hand you its best gifts all along.